Rant, Ghouls is based off a true story located in New Brunswick, Canada. This film is about the Red Crow Micmac Reservation in 1976. By government command, every Indian child under the age of 16 must attend residential school. For Ayla and those in her community, that means being under the mercy of Popper, the Indian agent who runs St. Daphne's Residential School. At 15, alongside her uncle, Ayla sells enough weed to pay Popper her truancy tax. Unfortunately, when Ayla's drug money is stolen and her father, Joseph, returns home from prison, the balance of Ayla's world is destroyed. Her only options are to run or fight, and Micmacs don't run. Ayla is a strong and mature young woman. When she was little, she witnessed her dad get taken to jail by some white cops, and she found her mom's body hanging from the rafters of her house the same day. No child should have to witness that, especially at a young age. Ayla lost both her parents at a young age, causing her to mature too quickly. Because of this, she didn't get the chance to be a kid. Ayla is also very brave because she made a plan to rob Popper, even if it meant going to St. G's. Popper, on the other hand, is rude and harmful for multiple reasons. Popper robs Ayla's friends of the money Ayla was originally going to give him just so he can get more. And on top of that, Popper, along with his friends, abused the Indians of the community and the children in the school for no justified reason. The abuse suffered by the characters in this movie is very saddening. Indians would get beat up beside their car for no reason at all. Ayla's dad was hit over the head with a piece of wood wrapped with a belt, even though he did nothing wrong. He was also brutally abused while Ayla and her friends were robbing Popper. Ayla was also beat up and almost raped by Popper because she had robbed him. All the abuse in this movie is historically correct. Indians would get physically abused by authorities for disobeying even the smallest commands or for practicing their culture. Children in residential schools were physically, mentally, and sexually abused by the staff. Did you know 1 in every 25 children at these schools died in comparison to 1 in every 26 soldiers during World War II? That means these children had a better chance of dying at school than at war. The way children were treated in residential schools is unbelievable. They were abused, raped, neglected. They didn't receive proper health care, and a lot of the time, they went hungry. This all happened because the European settlers believed the Aboriginal culture was inferior, wrong, unequal, and savage. Because of this, over 150,000 children went through residential school, and at least 4,000 children never made it out of school. Just let that sink in for a minute. Over 150,000 children were abused, raped, and neglected for years, and over 4,000 children died. In 2008, Prime Minister Stephen Harper apologized on behalf of the Canadian government to the survivors of residential schools, saying that the Government of Canada sincerely apologizes and asks the forgiveness of the Aboriginal peoples of this country for failing them so profoundly. This apology took a lot of courage on behalf of the Canadian government, but it still hasn't changed the fact that Aboriginal people of our country are still treated unequal, and that needs to change. Everybody talks about making the world a better place, making Canada a better country, but that won't happen unless we do something about it. We need to make a change we wish to see. We have to step up and help the Aboriginal people get their rights back. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission made a list of 98 policy recommendations, including the implementation of healthcare rights for Aboriginal people, the creation of and funding for new Aboriginal education legislation, and the creation for public inquiry into missing and murdered Aboriginal women and girls. 16% of Canada's missing and murdered women is made up of Aboriginal women, but they only make up 4% of Canada's female population. We can't just say we want to change, we need to take action. We need to be the change we wish to see. In every work of art, whether it's songs, TV shows, books, or movies, there are always symbols that represent something bigger than what's said. In Rant, Ghouls, there are many symbols. One of these symbols appears when Ayla's in a residential school in the South by herself. While she's there, she sees the ghosts of the children that had died in the school, and she says, "All the ghosts that wander around, the devil never lets them go." This represents the way the pain endured in residential schooling will forever affect children, no matter where they go or what they do. The devil never lets them go, because the devil never lets the ghosts go to heaven. But when you look at it with more detail, it also means those who survive residential schooling will never be able to forget or get rid of the pain and suffering. The ghosts will never get out of residential school, just like the survivors will never see what happened. They'll always have that pain following them around. Every Canadian should watch Rant, Ghouls. It shows the realities of what Aboriginal people had to go through and still go through to this day that we as Canadians know little about. This movie is great for educating our country on what happened 100 years ago. Even though this is a fiction movie and some facts were exaggerated for dramatic effect, every single thing that happened in this movie happened in real life to people of our country. Everything from alcoholism, suicide, poverty, to having only a legal means to keep yourself and your family safe. All that happened to Aboriginal people of our country. All of it evoked a litany of statistics that are all too real in too many Indigenous communities, said Chelsea Vowell in the CBC News article written about Ranch Freedom Rules. This should be what convinces us to take action. This should be what haunts us all.